The news of POORSTACY's sudden passing hit the world like a cold, unexpected shockwave, one of those moments where the air around you changes, where everything feels heavier even before your mind fully understands why. Carlito Milford, known globally by his stage name, POORSTACY, was only 26 years old. Yet his music had already carved a distinct place in the emotional landscape of thousands who found refuge in his art. When his death was reported, it didn't feel like just another celebrity headline. It felt like the abrupt stop of a voice that had been speaking directly to a generation living through loneliness, chaos, and the quiet hope that things might eventually get better. According to early reports shared by TMZ, the Palm Beach County Medical Examiner confirmed the heartbreaking news. The Boca Raton Police Department told the outlet that he died early Saturday in the city. No official cause of death has been announced, leaving his fans and the broader music community trapped in the kind of painful uncertainty that often follows the loss of someone so young. That uncertainty becomes its own kind of ache. People replay his lyrics, scroll through his posts, revisit old interviews, searching for signs they might have missed, hints he might have left behind, or just anything to make sense of such an unexpected tragedy. Details coming from the hotel where he had been staying for the last 10 days paint a picture of a quiet, private stretch of time leading up to the moment everything changed. A hotel worker reportedly told TMZ that POORSTACY suffered a sudden medical emergency on Saturday morning. Whatever happened, it unfolded quickly enough that emergency responders were called immediately, and he was transported to a local hospital. According to these early accounts, he wasn't alone during this stay. He had checked into the hotel with a woman and a toddler, a detail that adds an unexpected emotional weight to the story. It's one thing to hear of an artist suffering privately, silently. It's another to imagine a child being anywhere near something so devastating. Thankfully, no one else was hurt or transported to the hospital, but the emotional implications linger. Someone witnessed the final moments of a young man whose life had been unfolding before the world in music videos, concerts, lyrics, and social media posts, yet who remained deeply private when it came to the most vulnerable parts of himself. His passing feels especially heavy because POORSTACY was more than just another emerging artist. He was a sonic hybrid, an emotional bridge between the raw, wounded honesty of emo music and the gritty realism of hip-hop. Originally from Palm Beach, he had been crafting a career that felt both fearless and deeply personal. His sound was the kind that came from an artist who wasn't afraid to bleed a little in public, to make music that felt like late-night confessions, restless anxieties, and the strange comfort of knowing someone out there felt the same way you did. To truly understand the gravity of his loss, you have to understand the impact of who he was becoming. POORSTACY came up during a time when genre boundaries were dissolving, when listeners were hungry for art that reflected their emotional reality rather than fitting neatly into a label. He blended emo, screamo, punk, and hip-hop in a way that felt organic rather than experimental, as if those sounds were simply the languages he had grown up speaking. When he screamed on a track, it didn't feel like theatrics, it felt like release. When he rapped, it didn't feel like posturing, it felt like someone navigating the storm inside their own mind. It was this authenticity that brought him into collaboration with major names, including Travis Barker from Blink-182 and The Transplants, a musician known for recognizing raw talent when he sees it. Working with Barker wasn't just a cosign, it was a sign of the direction POORSTACY's career was heading. Artists who worked with him often spoke about his creative intensity, his hunger to push boundaries, and the emotional honesty he wasn't afraid to put into every verse and every scream. But one of the biggest milestones in his young career came when one of his songs was featured on the Bill and Ted Face the Music soundtrack. The movie itself was a nostalgic revival of a beloved franchise, but for the opportunity meant something bigger, a chance to reach a broader audience, to step into a space where his music wasn't just underground or niche, but recognized on a mainstream platform. The soundtrack went on to earn a Grammy nomination, and even though he wasn't the sole reason for that recognition, his contribution was meaningful. It proved that his art wasn't confined to a single lane and that the total emotional depth of his sound had broad appeal. The grief surrounding his death doesn't just come from the fact that he was talented, but from the fact that he was still becoming. He was at the stage of life where artists start solidifying their voice, exploring new creative chapters, and stepping into deeper levels of maturity where the world begins to see not just potential, but the legacy forming. To lose him now means losing the unwritten chapters, the music he hadn't yet made, the stories he still carried inside him, and the evolution he never got to complete. Fans who followed POORSTACY closely know that his work often touched on themes of pain, inner conflict, love, alienation, and the desire to rise above the darker parts of life. His lyrics carried the weight of someone who had felt too much, too young. Someone who used music not as a performance but as survival. Many listeners found themselves reflected in his words. His songs didn't sugarcoat emotions, they exposed them. They gave people permission to feel the things they kept bottled up, to scream along in moments when whispering wasn't enough. The emotional connection fans felt to him wasn't accidental. He cultivated a world where imperfection wasn't a flaw but a feature, where vulnerability was strength, not weakness. His music validated the quiet, complicated feelings young people often aren't given space to express. That's why his passing feels so deeply personal for those who loved his work, because when someone speaks to your pain, their absence leaves a silence that's difficult to describe. As details continue to emerge, people close to him and those who followed his journey are going through the natural waves of disbelief, confusion, and sorrow. It's the kind of news that makes you revisit the timeline of someone's life, searching for clues or trying to understand how such a young life could end so suddenly. And for someone like POORSTACY, whose art often danced on the edges of emotional struggle, the uncertainty surrounding his death makes the loss feel even more complex. Yet beyond the headlines, beyond the tragedy, beyond the speculation, what remains is the undeniable impact of his work. POORSTACY was one of the few artists who managed to bridge emotional intimacy with sonic rebellion. He merged the aching tenderness of emo music with the sharpness of modern hip-hop. He screamed, he rapped, he confessed, and he created a world where chaos didn't have to be navigated alone. That was his gift, one that continues even now. Even after his passing, people are sharing stories online how his songs helped them through breakups, depression, loneliness, or the heavy silence of late-night overthinking. Others are sharing photos from concerts, remembering the energy he brought to the stage. The way his presence commanded the room, even though he often carried himself with a quiet, almost shy demeanor offstage. Artists have begun posting tributes, speaking about his kindness, his creativity, and his dedication to his craft. In the music industry, where egos run large and authenticity is sometimes hard to come by, POORSTACY was known for being genuine. The details about him staying at the hotel with a woman and a toddler have sparked new conversations about who he was away from the spotlight. Many fans had no idea he might have been traveling with family or people close to him. It reveals a side of him that was perhaps even more guarded than his emotional lyrics, his personal life. The idea that he may have been navigating fatherhood or playing a significant role in a child's life adds a softness, a human depth, to the public image of an artist known for screaming through emotional storms. It reminds people that behind every stage name is a person carrying responsibilities, relationships, struggles, and moments of joy the world never sees. His death also highlights a recurring reality. In the world of young musicians, the emotional toll of fame, the pressure of expectation, the unpredictability of mental and physical health, and the fragile line between creativity and emotional overwhelm. When artists make music rooted deeply in pain, fans often feel they understand them intimately. But that understanding doesn't replace what the person might be battling privately.